Joshua Brown, who was the testified in the Amber Guyger case. Now, Amber Guyger was a police officer who went into Botham Jean's home, and I'll repeat that, Botham Jean's home, his home, where he lives, and she murdered him. Then supposedly they found marijuana there. First of all, irrelevant. Secondly, I doubt it. Apparently she texted a police colleague while he was bleeding out. And very different situation in terms of its conclusion, but it reminds me of the police officer arresting Skip Gates in Cambridge several years ago during the beginning of the Obama administration at his own home. Dave Chappelle had a routine he did years ago about being terrified of getting robbed because his house was nice, and if he called the police, they would take him down. So she murdered him in his home. She was convicted. She was sentenced to an extremely light sentence. And I talked about this on the stream. I have ambiguity about that because on one hand, the racial disparities and bias are sickening and obvious and mind-blowing. And if it was any person of color who did this, they would have gotten the death penalty or had life in jail in Texas. She got 10 years. On the other hand, I'm not a big advocate of punitive sentencing. So I don't want to be in a position for, publicly demanding higher sentencing, period. That's just and I could be wrong. That's why I didn't comment on it. But I will say 10 years is an extraordinarily light sentence for walking into somebody's home and killing them, which is what happened. I just can't repeat that enough. She went into Botham Jean's home, his home, and murdered him. She got only 10 years for that. Joshua Brown testified in the trial and was found murdered in front of his house a couple of days ago. Now, the Dallas Police Department have said that this was related to a drug deal involving two suspects who traveled from Louisiana. To which I say, I don't believe the Dallas police. Period. Now, I'm not going to make an assertion I don't know. I would say that it is shocking and mind-blowing, the idea that somebody who had just been a witness in one of the most dangerous high-profile trials imaginable would then conduct a weed deal with people from out of state in front of his own home seems pretty dubious to me. And I will say more broadly that if I had to theorize, if I was guessing, I would guess that this is retribution for testifying. That's what I think. And I also think that people who say that that is a conspiratorial way of thinking, you can disagree with it, but if you dismiss it as a conspiracy, you are fundamentally undermining not only a valid response intellectually, but an essential response in a country where there is a war against people of color from law enforcement agencies. We just did a illicit history, a primer with Ken Klippenstein. Why does the FBI target so-called black identity extremists? And we're not even talking, look, it would be ridiculous if they were putting FBI resources into following the black Israelites. Sorry, stupid, waste of time and money. But you could at least theoretically say, oh, okay, those are 10 guys that say some stuff on street corners. Ridiculous, insane FBI overreach, period. And in fact, a lot of FBI things are overreach, period, in my opinion. But that wasn't what they were talking about. They were talking about Black Lives Matter activists. They were talking about people in communities fighting against police doing things like going into their houses and killing them, and all sorts of other prison policing policies. So I just wanted to say that we need to center this as much as we can. Everything is on the table. If I had to guess and give a theory, I would say that this is retribution. That's certainly my guess. And that official story to me is dubious to the point of insulting.
I mean, we don't, especially just in the light of what we've been talking about too in the past year with 6 prominent members of the Ferguson protests all losing their lives in very suspicious circumstances as well, and no answers there, that, we have every right to be suspicious of this.
We have an obligation to be suspicious.
I see I think it was a mayor, maybe it was a police chief, but ask people to be patient. And I don't know why anybody should ever do that with this sort of thing. Like, this is an urgent matter that people should, and the police,
this is the most important thing happening
should
in Dallas.
feel it. Yes. Like, fuck patience about shit like this. People should be done showing patience, because all patience does is let people run the clock out on this until people stop paying attention. So no patience about any of this shit.
No patience, 100%. I'm sorry to end like that. That's a very unpleasant note to end on, but it's a profoundly important thing. And I appreciate all of you.
I guess the moral of the story tonight is fuck unity. Shit like this is going on.
Well, in 30 seconds, I can end on a positive note.
All right, give me 30 seconds of positive.
So a very exciting story just happened this week where 82 tenants who went on rent strike in Brooklyn after their landlord group refused to... Yeah,
landlord
of course, based in California, of course.
Oligarchic collectivism of landlords.
The landlord
They refused to make basic repairs and to basically put heat in the building. And 82 residents went on rent strike, and they won a massive, I think, $600,000 case against them. They're all getting, each of the residents is getting paid their money back. Anyways, all these people came together, they organized, they took a big risk, they stood up for themselves, and they won. And that's very positive.
Rent strikes are awesome. Shout out to rent strikes. We don't advocate any specific course of action, but rent strikes are awesome. And in fact, Joshua Kahn Russell, our resident activism czar and strategist, Wildfire Project has been in coordination with people who've led successful rent strikes across the country. So shout out and positive note. Peace and love. Appreciate all of you.
You just watched a Michael Brooks show video. Subscribe to get them all. Why wouldn't you? Don't be foolish. Click subscribe below and become a patron as well. Patreon.com/TMBS. Thanks, everybody.